Hello and welcome to Gerety Talks. My name is Lucia Ongai and I am the co-founder of Gerety Awards. Just like the awards, this series will put in the spotlight some of the industry's true change makers within the aim to drive progress at a global scale. Today we welcome three fantastic guests from Sweden. Linda Elers, Creative Director, co-lead partner, Saatchi Stockholm. She's a multi-award winning creative director with a vast range of local and international brands such as Adidas, Ramlösa, KLM, Comhem, and Fortnum under her belt. She has great experience in devising brand communications that work both globally and locally. Her passion for digital began at Farfar, famously then recognized as one of the world's 5 best digital agencies. Linda was named Sweden's best copywriter in 2013. So welcome, Linda.
Thank you.
Christina Knight, creative director and founder of UKnight. She was one of the very first female copywriters and creative directors in Sweden. During her 35 years in advertising, she has worked both at Swedish and international agencies like Draft FCB, Bodenfors, and Ogilvy Ingo, but also ran her own agency during the 90s, Night and Day. Today, she is Executive Creative Director at The Amazing Society, as well as a frequent lecturer, TED speaker, mentor, and jury member of award shows all over the world. She has won several creative awards herself, as well as awards for her creative leadership. A true advocate for inclusion, diversity, and gender equality in the ad industry, she wrote 2 books, Mad Women, A Her Story of Advertising, and Not Buying It. And she is also a board member of the International Alliance of Women, Fredrika Bremer-Förbundet, and UN Women Sweden. Welcome and thanks for joining us, Christina.
Thank you.
Finally, Emma Eriksson, co-head of creative at Forsman and Bodenfors, New York. After working at TVWA Stockholm for brands like Absolut Vodka and MTV, she co-founded Stockholm agency Le Bureau, working for clients including H&M and Filipaka. She began at Forsman Bodenfors in 2017 as art director, where she worked on the agency's stylish Don't Hold Back campaign for Häagen-Dazs, which celebrated inclusiveness and positivity and followed the agency win of the ice cream brand's global creative duties. She is going to move to New York to bring some of the Swedish culture to the agency. With a strong interest in art, fashion, and design, she has been teaching at Beckman's, Berks, and Miami Art School, and has served as a jury in international festivals like Cannes Lions, Guldeget, and Gerety Awards. Thanks for joining, Emma. Thanks for joining to the 3 of you. I hope my Swedish words were understandable.
Yes.
So we are going to go straight to the first question. I read in an article about creativity from the Nordic countries. The marriage of high creativity and innovation is markedly evident in this region and will continue to challenge global brands to invest only their brightest and most innovative concepts in order to compete. While the creative caliber is high, the Nordics are known to have an openness and tolerance for new ideas, a unity that creates the perfect opportunity for eager and forward-thinking marketers. So, do you agree with this statement? Do you think there are certain characteristics that make Swedish advertising different to others, or something specific and immediately recognizable in Swedish campaigns?
Yeah, I think so. If I can start, I'll try and be brief. I think that our sort of mental state and our view of life is probably quite defined by the landscape and the climate, and the fact that Sweden is such a scarcely populated country. It's a big country and there are not that many of us. So I think that has something to do with our melancholy, maybe. But the way it's mirrored, I think, in communication is that I find that Scandinavian design and also Scandinavian advertising is often very clean and sort of less is more. There's not a lot of clutter when it comes either to the visual or typography. So there's sort of a sense of cleanliness, and also I think the sense of humor maybe is not very bombastic. It's not sort of ha-ha humor, but it's sort of smiley, smirky, funny, and at its best sort of intelligent. So cleanliness, less is more, I would say. But what does the art director say? Emma, what would you say?
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a really good question. And it's also interesting because it's something I've been thinking about, especially now when I started working in the US and with Americans, that it is that when it comes to like both the storytelling style and also the visuals, we are much more subtle and also maybe more documentary, and it is like we have a much cleaner, more simple approach to kind of everything, and like we don't really like to sell that hard in advertising, if I compare it to the US, and that also comes with like supers and end cards and things like that, and also voiceover, like we don't usually have that kind of hard selling voiceover, and it's not like in your face. It's more it's a bit more quiet, I guess. So yeah, for sure. I think you can see a difference.
Yeah, I agree as well, and I think there often is a high level of relevance in the ideas. It kind of sounds like the opposite of creativity, but but it's not. But I think we often have a high level of relevance in what we're doing, and also something that I think can be characteristic is that I found that things that we take for granted more here in Sweden can be perceived as a statement or something very like what do you say, not provocative, but like forward thinking, because we are kind of a more how do you say, equal, a more equal country between the women and men, for example. And so I think even though we have a way to go still, I think some of the things that we're doing can be perceived as being kind of a statement where it's just like normal to us.
Yeah, I think you're right, Linda. Because Sweden is quite progressive when it comes to like how society is functioning and values when it comes to equality between men and women. So a lot of things that, like, if we would do that in Swedish advertising, nobody would really care, because it's been done so many times, and everybody is kind of taking it for granted. But if you would do that, for instance, in Asia, it would be a huge thing. So I guess culture is the cultural context is very important when it comes to also the level of creativity, I guess, or maybe it's better to say like the level of statement.
I agree. I think that's why a lot of Swedish people often react to advertising from Southern Europe, for example, which can be very colored by another view of what it means to be a woman or what it means to be a man, where by now we quite rarely see sexist advertising in Sweden. We have other issues that, but if we turn the clock back maybe 5 or 10 years, we would still have sexist advertising in Sweden too, but today so much less of it, definitely.
Yes, there has been a huge change, I think, and it's kind of when you're in it you don't see it, but it's interesting just to see the advertising from a few years back, and you're like, what? Did we do that? And it wasn't that long ago, but now it's more like the new normal is to include people of every color and every ethnicity, and also sexualities and everything. So I think to us it's more of a statement when you don't do it, but in other countries it can be perceived the opposite.
Mhm.
And there was another article that said 3 ways the Swedish concept of lagom will revolutionize your creative agency, and lagom indicates the importance of balance among a group or team. Can you tell us more about this concept? How do you say it to begin with?
Lagom.
Lagom.
It was my favorite word growing up. Always when my mother asked me how much I wanted of the food, I would reply, lagom. It's the best word.
That's perfect. Yeah, there
yes.
isn't really a straight translation into English. I mean, it means just right, not too much, not too
much.
little, but just right.
Yes.
So your mother probably learned eventually what what you meant.
Yes, I think so. But I think that's an interesting question, and for me, I have never thought about lagom in that sense of like the culture in the agency, but to me, we're often talking about in our agency the importance of feeling safe in order to create stuff. In order to do great things, you have to be confident and feel safe enough to say bad things and do bad things and make mistakes. And I think for me, that's very, very important to kind of create a climate where you feel like it's okay not to be the best version of you all the time, and to always come up with the great stuff. Sometimes mediocre is what you can do, and that should be okay. But I think that's the like my interpretation of it, and I think it's kind of we don't have as much of hierarchies in Sweden as in many other countries, and I think that's one way of looking at it. And to me, it's about just creating a safe environment for people.
Great. And what is your all-time favorite Swedish campaign?
I have so many. It's kind of, I just realized that I actually, like, I mean, I think I really like Swedish advertising because it really moves me in many ways. I mean, I like international advertising too, so it's not that I only like the Swedish things, but like one campaign, if I would like name a campaign that is like typical, it would be I think it was like a few years back for the Swedish radio, and it was shot. It was like an interactive film, and it was shot at like. You could choose any hour of the day or the night, and you can just see what happened in different places all over Sweden exactly that time. And I think what moved me was that it was kind of capturing the country in such a, and also like how people are and how it feels to live in this country in just like a beautiful way. And it was directed by Philip Nilsson. And it was just beautiful with the soundtrack and everything. Maybe not just like the most special or innovative idea, but somehow it got to me. But I have a lot of other examples as well, but you go.
Yeah, I like you, Emma, found it quite hard to pinpoint one favorite, because there's been a lot of high level, great craft and good ideas in production. But I decided to actually mention a really, really old commercial. I think it's probably like 20 years old or something. And it's for Lotto, which is a state-run lottery. And it's about this very ordinary guy who works in an office, and he's totally harassed by his arrogant and sort of bossy, unsympathetic boss, who asks him to work over the weekend. But what the boss doesn't realize is that this mediocre guy has just won a fortune on the lottery. So he answers back and answers up, to this boss in a really unexpected and really, really funny way. And it was really, really loved when it came, and I think a lot of people still remember it. And I think the reason people like it so much is because he represents this totally harassed, mousy little gray guy who finally had the courage and ability to answer back to his horrible boss. And I think that speaks to something within all of us, that probably we've had occasions in our life when we would have liked to be able to answer back and come out the winner. So I like advertising ideas that kind of tap into human needs and human characteristics, and that one does that really nicely, I think. And I think the reason people love it is because they can recognize themselves in it and wish that they would have the courage or opportunity to do that at some point in their lives. But that's an old one, so
yeah,
it is an old one,
it.
but it is fantastic. And I also think the craft was so amazing because you didn't see it coming. When you saw it the first time, it was like, what's he doing? What? So I really love that example. To me, I also have a lot of favorites. It's very, very hard to choose, but I think one of my favorites is the Swedish number campaign, which was a few years ago now, but I think it's very Swedish in a way. It's like it's this interactive, inviting, open campaign. It's just like when you do something like that, you don't know what's going to happen and if it's going to work. But it's like taking a chance and just do it. And it came out very, very well. So that's one of my favorites, I think.
And Christina, in 2013, you published the book Mad Women, A Her Story of Advertising, because you found all books about advertising were written by men. And in May 2018, you launched your second book, Not Buying It, which is a more practical guide on how to change and challenge the norms and structures of the communications industry. Can you tell us about them and what changes did you notice in between the two books related to the issues that you tackle in them?
Well, Mad Women, I wrote completely out of my own frustration when I realized there were like no books written by ad women. They were all written by men, and they're excellent books. I mean, Ogilvy on advertising and all these books that you're meant to read, they're excellent. But why hadn't an ad woman written a book? So it was very much out of my own need, and I wanted to present inspiring role models to the younger generation coming into the industry after me, because I'm a true believer of, you know, this old expression, if you can see it, you can be it. You need someone to mirror yourself in and to show you that it's possible and that it's fun and that it can be successful. And I also wanted to, I think, convey the message that to young women that your perspective is missing. Your experiences is lacking in the ad industry, and you need to be by the table and contribute with your perspective and your experiences. And I think that was kind of typical of, it came out in 2013, and I think it was typical maybe of a time when we started sharing our personal experiences and kind of going from a state of thinking, oh, this is just me, I'm paranoid, I'm imagining lots of things, this is probably not really happening, there's something wrong with me, to more of a recognition and an awareness that, hang on, maybe it's not just me. Because when I start talking to other women in the industry and comparing notes and stories, our experiences are very similar, regardless of where in the world we live. So I think what happened sort of between my first book and my second book, Not Buying It, was that women were sharing more experiences and realizing that we are not alone. And I think this is really, really important because it's strengthening. And I think that's also exactly what happened in the Me Too movement, that once we started actually sharing experiences, we were strengthened by it. And it gives you the strength and courage to actually speak up And instead of questioning yourself, you start questioning the norms and structures, which is a much healthier exercise than to constantly question yourself. So I think that is sort of what happened in between my two books. And I really treasure and value all the sharing of stories and experiences, but there came a point where I felt, okay, now we've shared all these insights. So obviously we've diagnosed the situation and something needs to change. And although I appreciate that we keep sharing stories, I felt the need of actually being able to supply more concrete tools and techniques so that you can actually change things. So not buying it is much more of a sort of manual or a guide with what do you do if you're exposed to sexual harassments or suppression techniques, and how do you negotiate for better pay? How do you come back after parental leave to find that your job is gone? Or all these situations where you can need sort of concrete tools to deal with reality, a reality that I think a lot of us share.
And you mentioned that writing Mad Women was a life and career changing experience. How was that?
It was so funny because I started writing it during a summer holiday when I was in Italy, and it just sort of came to me that I found it strange that there were no books written by women in advertising. I had no expectations whatsoever that it would lead to anything or anything would happen, but I think the timing was so right. So I usually say, you can read a book that changes your life, and I find that I wrote a book that changed mine, because the book opened so many contacts. I traveled all over the world and found myself lecturing in Mexico City and in Colombia and Milano and everywhere. So I realized again then that what I was feeling on a sort of personal level was actually not just an individual issue, but it was a sort of structural challenge and sort of a question of norms and structures. So the book became a door opener for me and has put me in touch with amazing people, women and men all over the world. And for that, I am just very, very grateful.
That's great. And Emma, you will be moving to Forsman and Bodenfors office in New York soon. To inject the best of Sweden creative culture into an atmosphere that is unabashedly New York. We are looking to combine the best of both worlds and create work that feels relevant and modern. What would you say is the best of both worlds, and what are your biggest challenges?
That's a big question. and to be honest, I'm still I'm figuring it out. I don't have all the answers. But I know that people in the US are really ambitious. They are also usually quite competitive, and they are very good at talking and presenting. And I'm so impressed by that, because you can kind of almost put anyone on a stage and they can deliver a message in an amazing way. And they also are really creative, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see if we can merge that with the typical F&B collaborative work method, and like Forsman and Bodenfors has a culture that I love, which is very collaborative, and it's also very flat. You can kind of you work in a big group of people, and nobody really cares what kind of level you have or what title you have. Nobody has titles even, and it's just this group of people who wants to solve the problem in the best possible way. And that is the only thing that people think about, and everybody is super hardworking and passionate. And even if people have been working there for 20 or 25 years, they are still that passionate. And I think that's pretty rare. So I think that's at the moment, I think that is what I would like to see happening in New York. What happens when you kind of mix those two worlds, because from the beginning, they are quite different. So at the moment, it feels like it can happen. But I also think that it comes down to the individuals who actually like is working at the office, that you have to find like the right people who wants to work that way and who appreciate that.
And you worked in a very successful Don't Hold Back campaign for Häagen-Dazs. Can you tell us about how you came up with the concept?
Yeah, we were like, as I said before, we were a big group of people. So it was definitely not just me. And we started to just dig in the product and just see what if we could find something that was actually rooted in the product. And the ice cream, I don't want to like make this an ad, but it is it's very it is kind of like the Don't Hold Back ice cream, because they only use real ingredients and natural ingredients, and they don't hold back on anything. They just do like the purest quality they can ever imagine to do. So we just felt that our communication should also be like that. So just like encourage people to do whatever they like and just like have fun in life, don't care what other people would think, and just like do things that they might also be scared of. So it's pretty simple. It's very like just playful and fun and inclusive.
And Linda, you gave up your medical education for advertising. Have you ever thought you had not made the right choice, or did you have moments of hesitation after you made the decision?
Actually, no, I haven't. I thought, I think I started medical school when I was 19 or 20. So, and I did it mostly because I really liked studying and I liked learning new things. And I think that's what brought me into copywriting, because it's basically the same thing. You get paid for learning things about an industry, a product, a service, and you get to come up with a solution to a problem. So it's kind of like studying in the rest of your life, which I really enjoy. And I also think that I like the playfulness that comes with this job, and that you don't have to like wear a role. You even though you're a senior copywriter or a creative director or whatever, you get to be yourself, and you don't have to like try and be someone else, which I really appreciate. I think to me that was an important thing, and I think I'm happier. I'm happier doing this.
I love your description of copywriting. I used to work as a copywriter, and I totally agree with you that it's such a luxury to constantly be introduced to new areas in life, or products and services. And even if we just skim the surface, the richness in being exposed to so many different people and industries, I think it's a gift.
Yeah, it is. And also it's very nice, if I make a mistake, nobody dies, which is very, very nice, I think, not to have that responsibility.
Yeah,
that makes a big difference.
Yes.
And you were behind the Earn the Jersey work for Adidas. Can you tell us about that campaign and how you came up with the idea? In an article you mentioned you had many challenges along the way.
Yes, we actually came up with the idea in the pitch for Adidas, and there are always challenges in every project, I think. This time we had the challenge of like finding an idea that was that worked with the Adidas global idea of inclusion and diversity, and also doing it in a way that would be interesting in Sweden, like we talked about earlier, since we're kind of a progressive country when it comes to these questions. You have to do something that really, I think, really stands out. Otherwise, it's just one of the campaigns talking about inclusion and diversity. So yeah, we came up with this idea of like we're talking about the players have to earn the right to wear a jersey, but the supporters can behave in any way they like, wearing the same jersey that they bought. And can we do something about that? Can we make people have to earn it, and have to like earn the right to wear it by behaving in a way that's inclusive and nice. So that's what we did. And the challenges were also like budget wise, and we had a very short amount of time to make to produce the content with all the players. I think we had like 15 minutes with every player or something like that, and we had to like film them and take photos and everything. So yeah, production wise it was a challenge. It was.
Christina and Linda, you both went to Berg School. Christina, you also teach there, that has a big reputation. What do you think is the most important thing you learned there?
Do you want to go first, Linda?
You can go first.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's such a long time ago since I was there, but that school has meant a lot to me. I mean, it really was my ticket into the industry, and I tried to sort of reflect on what was it that I took with me. I think it's three things. I think it's partly that you really need some good research and insights to enable your creative work. So it's not, I mean, sometimes it can be lucky strike and the first creative idea you have is the brilliant idea, but I think just the sort of the research work and the planning and the insights that go into the creative work, I find very supportive for the creative work. And then I think I learned that craft is key. So realizing and making an idea great is largely done by the quality of the craft and the love that goes into it. And then another thing that I find perhaps that we're trained to do, but which I think perhaps we tend to overdo, is that when we present creative work to our clients, we tend to oversell it. Like we explain it to the client, we even tell them what they're supposed to feel. And I think that perhaps is a learning to let the work do the work for you, to let people react spontaneously and experience work and not kind of talk too much when you present it. Something like that. I don't know. What about you, Linda?
Interesting. I haven't thought about it. The thing you said, the last thing you said, not oversell, but that's a good tip. I will I will work with that. I think what I learned was that there are always different solutions to a brief or a problem. I think when you're working on something, you kind of find the solution that you think is right. And what was interesting when I was studying was that when we were presenting our ideas, there were always like different ideas, many different ideas, and they were most of the time they were really good. So I learned that there always is more than one solution to a problem, and if you for some reason can't do the idea that you wanted to do, or the client says no, or something, there's always a different solution that can work. So it's just, you just have to go back and find it, and there's always more than one solution. That was one thing. And also I think I learned that well, you have to work hard. It is about like putting in the hours and really focus on trying to solve things and come up with the best ideas. And it is demanding sometimes, but it's worth it, and it pays off.
And one last question for the three of you. What do you expect to find in campaigns for 2021? What kind of stories or ideas would you like to see or brands to tell us this year?
I'm hoping for more humor and less seriousness. That's what I always answer when I get asked these kind of questions. I think we have had a long period of like very serious advertising and like good cause and stuff like that, and that's nice and everything. But I really I'm hungry for silly campaigns now. So I'm hoping for that.
I think it's going to be like a lot of physical contact in advertising. Like for sure, like a lot of kissing and like exposed. Like I think people would just. I guess people also like really need to see and do that. So I guess that's going to be reflected in advertising as well, and maybe especially like in fashion advertising, I guess. I can just kind of see that coming with a lot of physical contact.
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective to think that we might historically be able to sort of identify a post-pandemic style of advertising. But I agree with Linda. I long also for sort of lightheartedness and fun and humor, and perhaps beyond that to be a little more serious. I think what I would like to see is relevance in representation. I think we need to work with insights. We need to address the target groups in our society and be inclusive. We still very rarely see people with different abilities in advertising or even ethnicities and so on. It's very white. It's very sort of streamlined. So it would be fun to see a more true representation of everybody, not in a sort of tokenism way, but just in a natural way that I long for.
Yeah, I think so. I think this year has also, like, people has learned a lot about what inclusion and diversity really means, and you can't just do it in just because you have to do it. You should do it, like as Christina said, rooted in reality and in an honest and real way.
It's funny because the answer of more humor came up already in a couple of the Gerety talks, so I can see everybody's longing more or less for the same thing.
Yeah.
So let's see what happens this year, what brands bring us and what type of campaigns we see. In any case, thank you very much for joining us today for this Gerety talk, and best of luck for all of you for this year.
Yeah, thank you, Lucia.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Okay.